With more on all this, we're joined by Ed O'Keefe, congressional reporter for the Washington Post and a CBS News contributor. Ed, good morning.
Good to see you guys.
The president accused the former director of the FBI of lying, said he'd swear to that in testimony. Are we headed for the president being deposed here by a special counsel, do you think?
It's certainly possible, and there are lawmakers in both parties who have acknowledged that that could happen. And you know, I think that's part of what was so intriguing about Comey's testimony this week is that he may have been laying out lines of questioning that the president will eventually have to answer and would have to answer to a special counsel under oath. And you know, that's part of the concern that a lot of Republicans have, is that if he keeps talking about this, is he potentially setting himself up for legal trouble should he get asked these questions, you know, in an official way.
Ed, the tapes that the president alludes to but will not confirm the existence of, we are going to find out about whether they exist in a, quote, very short period of time.
Yeah.
What is the strategy here in terms of dangling this possibility out to the press?
Gosh, Alex, I wish I knew. If anything, it just leaves the intrigue there. And the fact that these committees are asking for the tapes by later this month, I think will at least give us a few more days of intrigue as to whether or not they exist. And, you know, if they don't exist, so be it. If they do, boy, oh boy, as the former director said, Lordy, it'll be fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Do you think Comey's testimony this week substantially changed anybody's mind in Washington?
Well, you know, certainly Republicans now believe the president is out of, you know, out from under the cloud of criminal wrongdoing. But he's certainly not clear of any political wrongdoing. This is going to fester for quite some time, and it's going to make it very difficult for him to really command the agenda and the attention of everyone in Washington to get things that he wants done. Things are still going on, but with so much attention focused on this, it's going to be really tricky for the White House to change the subject on a regular basis, knowing that details of this ongoing probe continue to leak out.
But Ed, he's also set up, the president has set up a dynamic where it's effectively he said.
Yes.
He has denied asking James Comey for a loyalty pledge. He said, I didn't say that. And if I did, there'd be nothing wrong with it. You know, when it comes to who to trust, where is Washington at this point?
Well, because you ask it that way, I think many people point out that Comey testified under oath. The president has not done that. And knowing that he understands the consequences of saying things under oath and standing by what he wrote and what he said, there may be a little more credibility right now, at least, with Comey in the minds of many in Washington. Yeah.
How surprising was it to hear Comey acknowledge that he leaked this information in hopes that it would lead to the appointment of a special counsel?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it was one of the most revealing and important moments of the whole thing. There is nothing inherently illegal with leaking. And the president and his supporters are saying he's a leaker. Well, there's nothing wrong with being a leaker unless it's classified information. Obviously, that's against the law. But what he did there, I think, was a big favor to all of us journalists. He explained to the public why it is government and former government officials feel compelled sometimes to share information that they believe needs to get out there for us to disseminate and report publicly. There was nothing illegal, based on the analysis of legal experts, with a former government official sharing his notes of a meeting with his boss that were not classified.
And we know the president is going to be, or his lawyer says he's going to be suing or putting forth a lawsuit with the Justice Department's Inspector General. And it would be remiss of us not to mention that this was actually Infrastructure Week.
Right.
The president's priorities legislatively in Congress, have they been scuttled?
No. And that's another important thing to remember. Look, the House this week essentially repealed the Dodd-Frank financial regulatory reforms that the Obama administration put in place. They literally were voting as Comey testified. The Senate is struggling to come up with a plan to undo the Affordable Care Act, but they're still working on it, and they'd like to get it done by the end of July. That work all continues, and there are people paying attention to it. If anything, Comey, and if anything, Comey may have, at least for a few days, diverted attention away from the fact that Senate Republicans, at least, are struggling to come up with a plan.
Ed O'Keefe, always good to see you. Thanks for the time.
Great to see you guys.